And welcome back. It's time for this week's Capitol Report with Pat McGuigan of CapitolBeatOK.com. Pat, you were one of the speakers at the Sovereignty Symposium this week, and the scholarly paper that you prepared got some favorable notice. Tell us about your themes.
Well, judicial confirmation and retention in the age of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. A perfect storm or a perfect mess. That was what I spoke on. I was on a panel with mostly judges and lawyers. That was the theme, and the point I made is, you know, we're kind of in a mess in the federal system. I told stories about 4 justices I knew fairly well. I should say 1 judge and 3 justices, Bork, who never was confirmed, Scalia, Rehnquist, and Brennan, mostly conservative, but of course Brennan, the liberal hero. And what I talked about was the reason we value judicial independence, or should, at least traditionally in America, is that in the case of a Brennan, for example, you often would have justices vote against the stereotype. The memorable example that came to mind was the Massachusetts Citizens for Life case, where for a small pro-life group that was in trouble with the Federal Election Commission, Brennan wrote the majority decision defending their free speech rights. And interestingly enough, Rehnquist was in dissent, and I explained why that fit with their philosophy, but superficially would make us think, well, that doesn't look conservative and liberal. And of course I talked about my friend Judge Bork, and I talked about the late, great Antonin Scalia. And in fact, I used Scalia as one of my examples because he was in the majority on the flag burning case, where flag burning was regarded by the justices narrowly, 5-4, as protected form of speech. Now, to go on, I also talked about how there's a proposal here in Oklahoma that would like to make our state judicial selection process modeled more after the federal. And basically the point I made was, are we sure we want to model after the federal, given the polarization there? But the conservative rationale articulated by people like my friend Andy Spiropoulos at Oklahoma City University, it's not irrational. I just disagree with the conclusion as to what the cure might be. I think we all need to talk more vigorously and clearly and definitively about the meanings of words on paper, and press for an interpretivist approach rather than a creative approach. But the role of judicial independence is so important. I think we kind of leave the Oklahoma system the way it is, which is lawyers make recommendations and the governor appoints, but maybe have limits on the terms. The big frustration for conservatives, just to wrap up here, is that 6 years into Governor Fallin's tenure, 6 of the justices remain those who were appointed by Brad Henry. But there's diversity among those people. Right. So it was kind of a thoughtful, legal piece, and it went over well. Well,
good. Real quickly, you reported some news about the multi-county grand jury and the death penalty issue. Quick note on that.
I'll just wrap up and make it real succinct. The multi-county grand jury has completed its work. There's not going to be indictments. There's not going to be further information. I got this from sources that were in the know. So they're done. The curtain hasn't formally fallen because they're dealing with other issues. So now the ball is in the court of the Department of Corrections and the protocols. So the clock hasn't started ticking yet on possible additional death penalties. So the debate will continue.
Well, you can read more about these and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. For Pat McGuigan, I'm Alex Cameron. Have a great day.